Hello and welcome back to another Instagram Live and Artist Stories. I'm Tara Vahab, founder of Loud Art Society, and today we're going to have our next guest, who is a comedian. So before he joins us, I'm just going to give a quick information about our organization. Loud Art Society was founded in 2015, so we have been having our activities for about 5 years now, and we have been providing art education as well as public art projects and events. And our organization is trying to help people to enhance their health through art and creativity, and just promoting the health benefits of practicing any art or creative activity. And so today we are having Niek Theelen, a stand-up comedian, to join us. Also, I wanted to thank everyone who is joining us here on our live and supporting these live interviews. It's been a great pleasure to see so many people actually supporting these online events. All right, I think Nick is here. I'm just going to send him an invite. Let him join us.
Hello, Tara. How are you?
Hi, Nick.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Awesome.
It's a little bit, but...
Okay, let's see. How's your internet connection? It's actually not bad. It does cut off a little bit, but I hope it goes away.
Okay. I can also move here, so...
How's
everybody doing? I'm gonna move a little bit and see if I can get into a better spot.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry about that.
No.
How are you?
I'm great, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm just outside on my patio, just enjoying some sun, so...
Nice. Yeah, I love the sunshine. Let me actually... I need to make this a little louder. Okay. All right, Nick. Let's get started. Please tell us about yourself, introduce yourself, and tell us what kind of art it is that you make. What is your creative activity or engagement that you do? How long have you been doing it for? And yeah, and I'll go into more details.
All right, so my name is Niek Theelen, and I am a stand-up comedian. I've been doing stand-up now for 5.5 years, and I also do film. I've made a couple of short films with local friends here in Central Alberta, and I have a podcast, and I do web design on the side. So I'm kind of I have a fine arts degree from the University of Lethbridge, and so that's why there's a big crossover in everything I do and have done. But yeah, I'm usually a pretty creative person, and I find I just love stand-up comedy because I was born with a physical disability called cerebral palsy, and so I talk about my personal experiences in my life, being born with some challenges and having to go through that process, and kind of educate people, but also make them laugh at the same time. So that's part of the reason I started doing that. But when I was in university, I took a screenwriting course for writing for movies, and we had the opportunity to write some stand-up as one of our assignments. So I did, and ended up getting like a 95% or something crazy. And my professor said I should try it, and I thought he was kind of crazy because I thought he was just suggesting that everybody should do that. And but since that time, you know, I've had some really cool opportunities. I've basically been all over the province now and into British Columbia, and yeah, having a lot of fun doing it. So
awesome. Nick, sorry, before you explain more, there is this white light on.
Oh.
Yeah, can you just move a little bit so we can see your face more clearly? Thank you.
Sorry about that. Okay, let's see if I can. Let's see if I can do better. Let me find it. Very bright here. 1 second. Okay. Are we? Can you see? Did I turn my camera on?
I think so. Yeah.
Hopefully I didn't turn. Oh, oops. That's my dog.
Oh, nice.
Oh, sorry. I had my finger over the camera. Sorry.
Okay. Now it's better.
Okay. Yeah. So I've been doing stand-up comedy now for 5.5 years. I've just been doing some online shows recently because of coronavirus, obviously. So a little bit of that has been delayed, but I also do a podcast, so I've been having a lot of fun talking to comedians who normally would be working all year round, and now they're kind of sitting at home, and you know, so I like to. I'm sure it's the same way with you as an artist. You like to collaborate and talk to different artists and see what they're working on. And especially if somebody has more experience, you like to get tips and advice. So that's what I try to do to better myself. And then, yeah, I'm just keeping busy, you know, just trying to make people laugh and trying to give them a reason to smile with all the craziness going on.
Great. So I guess you already answered to this question. I was going to ask why and how did you start making your stand-up comedy? So you said that you just took a creative writing course at university, and from that project that you did, you became interested in just doing that more often?
Yeah, well, actually, so the program that I took is called Fine Arts and New Media, and they really just make you take a big cross section of a different, all sorts of different art forms. So from like traditional art, you know, like drawing and stuff like that, to 3D modeling, to graphic design, to, you know, screenwriting. So they give you, they kind of make you take.
Oh, you got cut off.
Oh, sorry. They make you take all the introductory courses of every, basically all the options, and then you decide in your like third year kind of what you want to like kind of focus on and what you enjoy most. And for me that was screenwriting. So yeah, I just that's why I took all the advanced screenwriting courses, and in my advanced screenwriting course, right towards the end, my professor suggested that, or gave us an opportunity to write some stand-up comedy, and I always thought I had kind of a interesting story to tell, so I just wanted to figure out how to do it, and I started, you know, because we go over all the art forms, and I took some filmmaking courses and stuff like that, and I still love film, but I do find that with film, there's a lot of people involved in the making of a film, and especially when you're in university, you're working on it as a portfolio piece, and you're not necessarily getting paid. So the issue that I was running into is I was putting a lot of time and effort into these projects, and then if the project never materialized or some aspect of it didn't get done, then I didn't have work to show for my time. So that was a little bit frustrating, but I found that going on stage and telling jokes gave me an outlet to be able to tell a story and to create something. And also, I can have a friend come out one night and record my stand-up, and then I can, kind of use that as a somewhat of a portfolio piece. And I wasn't necessarily dependent on, a huge crew of people. And I found the same kind of, the joy of creating something after you show it to somebody, or if you showcase your art in a gallery and you get the feedback from people, and usually comments are pretty good. And so
we can hope for that.
Yeah, but I found the same kind of feedback, and kind of it's sort of a weird I guess a weird high that we all chase as an artist, to have our art validated, or get praise from somebody that like you looked up to or that taught you or something, right?
To be appreciated, of course.
Yeah, so that's kind of why I started doing it. And then I just got really into it. I went one night, the first time I ever went to try stand up. I was in Lethbridge, and it was an open mic night, and it was their first anniversary night of the show, I guess, and they were giving away an award for Comedian of the Month, and they decided to give me the award. And I said, you guys can't give me this award. I've only been here one time. Like, it's supposed to be over the course of the entire month, not just one time. But I kind of got addicted to it ever since. And, you have some good shows and some bad shows, but that's part of the art, just getting better and learning how to deliver your jokes and get better with writing and all that kind of stuff.
So Nick, were you born and raised in Canada?
I was not. I am actually, my family's from Holland. So I was born in the Netherlands, which, of course, it's right beside Germany. And so, yeah, I lived there for the first 7 years of my life, and then we went from the Netherlands to Canada. We were in some small towns in Sundre, and then we moved eventually to Alberta. And I went to school here for the most of school, and so I guess you could like I'm not officially I'm a permanent resident, but I guess you could officially consider me kind of Canadian.
You're not a citizen yet?
No, I want to, but I don't know. My friend was saying, I was asking him like, how hard really is this test? And he said, you're a university student, so you should be able to get it. But yeah, I don't know. Because I'm worried if I do get it, then I have to give up my other citizenship. So I kind of want to keep.
But are you traveling back and forth a lot, or before the pandemic, I guess?
Well, I was thinking about it, but I don't know now. So yeah, I guess we'll see how it goes. But I am thinking I'll probably get a Canadian citizenship pretty soon here, and I'll be able to actually call myself Canadian.
Yeah, you should call yourself Canadian. After how many years you've been living here? Over 10 years, right?
Yeah. Too many to count. I don't know. 1999 we moved here, so what 21 years now. So
wow,
it's about time. But
it's about
I don't know. Yeah, I guess I've just been trying to. It's getting more expensive too, so I better hurry up. Otherwise, it's gonna keep going up. So, yeah.
Awesome, and you're still in Red Deer, right?
Yeah, I live just outside of Red Deer, but I live here, and it's pretty nice. And unfortunately, though, with the pandemic going on, like our comedy scene where we had a lot of shows, we had a couple of shows at bars and restaurants in the area and some other places, and a comic book store, and some of those businesses had to shut down because of COVID. So yeah, I don't know if they'll be able to recover and open up again. But I know that the comedy scene is going to keep going.
Yeah.
Like I said, I've been doing a lot of online shows and stuff, and focusing on my podcast and like web design as well. I guess I would say the one thing with comedy is like comedy right now is not actually recognized as an art form in the legislation of different art forms in Canada or right now. And so if you go to ever apply for any grants or anything, there's theater and there's film and there's all these different categories. Puppetry and all these things are recognized, but then whenever, for whatever reason, stand-up comedy isn't recognized as an art form in all the legislation, so it makes it really difficult for a comedian right now to, not just myself, but even comedians that have been doing stand-up for 10, 15, 20 years, they can't apply for any kind of grants either to do any kind of recordings or any kind of tours like that you might see with a band. They can sometimes apply for funding, right? But
Yeah.
right now in Canada, we can't because the problem is that a lot of comedians are having to, if they want to try to apply for something, they apply for it under the theater or the playwright kind of format, but
It's
then
performance.
we don't know. Yeah, but we don't have the exact same schooling as a theater major would, so then it's very difficult to get validated. So it makes it difficult. But the Canadian Association of Stand-Up Comedians is working hard they're based out of Toronto, but they're working hard to try to get legislation put in place so that we can actually be recognized in that form, because you'd be surprised, even like a lot of people think when I tell them I do stand-up comedy, they think you wrote all the jokes yesterday on a napkin at Tim Hortons, but it's something that's developed and created over time as like any other art form. So yeah, that's what I was gonna kind of ask you about. Is, do you think, as somebody who does more, I know I saw some of your work too. I love the newspaper art that you did. That was really awesome. But do you think, as somebody that's doing, canvas and paint art, kind of that kind of stuff, is there more like validation of your art, recognition of the art in Canada right now?
Yeah, I would say so. From my own experience, I've been practicing art for 20 years now. So, and I have education in art as well. And on top of that, with founding this organization, I've been working like full-time for free almost for 5 years. And on top of that, I was in a car accident, right when I founded the organization, and I was injured and I had to go through my recovery, and I had a pretty tough time too. And I felt like I was not understood and not appreciated. But I applied for different fundings. I received some of them. But that's mainly because I have been documenting my work and showing the proof that this is what I'm doing and this is where I'm going, and just having some sort of idea of where I'm coming from and where I'm going to and what sort of planning I have. And I think when it comes to funding, that's what is important to those organizations that are giving the funds, is that, are you going to be using this towards your professional development? Are you going to be using this towards your development of your career? And which is kind of a funny question to ask. If you are already showing your work and if you are actively working on your professional development, and if you've been making jokes and if you've been having performances regularly and you've been documenting all of it, and you have a website, you have social media pages, like, it shows legit that you are actually doing this. That kind of question is kind of funny to ask someone, but that's where I think they make it more difficult to let's say if there's between you and 100 different other applicants, trying to
Right.
choose from this amount of people, and then eventually we'll just tell you that, oh, we had too many applicants and it was very difficult to choose.
Right.
And
I guess I should do that. Not all my comedy shows are in like bars and restaurants. Some of them are in actual comedy clubs. I've performed, you know, in a theater here in Red Deer that holds about like 600 people and stuff. So with Brent Butts from Corner Gas, and I don't know if you want. I don't know how. America's Got Talent had a guy on with. His name's Ryan Miller, and he was born. His hands didn't fully form, and he won like third place on the last season of America's Got Talent, and then he was in Calgary this past February, February before coronavirus and everything got crazy. He was in Calgary, so I performed with him for the weekend there, and I did a couple of shows. Was in Calgary for like a week and a half, so doing a series of shows, and then once in a while I will go with comedians from Central Alberta, or I can meet somebody in Calgary or whatever too. But we like carpool together and we go to these shows, either for the night or we go for a couple of days, and we just because. There's some cities that have actual comedy clubs, and then there's some that just do it in like restaurants and bars and stuff. But yeah, there's definitely, especially with stand-up comedy, you kind of have to get the restaurant or whoever to support it, right? You have to validate it to them before they will let you on stage. And sometimes it's like, they don't feel like they need to pay you because they feel like them giving you the stage time is already payment enough, which in some cases is okay, but at the end of the day we all have to pay our bills somehow. So that's part of the reason why I do web design too and some other things, is because that's kind of a more recognized. I think it's still an art form. It's just like creative, and it's more digital, but that's more recognized as something that I guess has more value to other people. Maybe, I don't know why it would be.
Know what? I find that when it comes to art and artists, if you are getting into the business side of it, all artists are entrepreneurs. So, right? Like you're trying to build something from ground up. And the only thing that you can be certain of is just your talent and your passion for this activity that you're doing. The rest of it, which would be the support of other people, the connections, the resources, all the other things you don't have. You have to go and build it. You have to go and work hard for it. And it's not easy. And so I find that, like, okay, if you're an entrepreneur, then you should be looking at all these strategies and development that you need for an entrepreneur. And that's something that I was not very happy about it when I was back in school at university. I felt like we never received that kind of training for an entrepreneur. Like, how am I going to get out from this university and start my life if I don't even have those right tools and resources and information for building a business? And if there aren't any places that would actually hire me as an artist, so I either have to get commissions or I have to build my own business again to get commissions. So either way, I have to learn how to do the business. And that was not part of our education. So which means I have to go and do another degree in maybe business and, educate myself a little bit more from that side of it. And that's another extra time that I should be spending. And so anyway, I just, I was very lost after school. And I felt like, I didn't receive the kind of education that I needed for the life that I'm planning to have. And I don't know, it wasn't a good feeling. But eventually, as I just kept working, I'm still not happy. We are never happy. There's still so much work to do. I have such a long way ahead of me. But at least just knowing that, my mission and my why is important to me, and I'm just working towards it.
Yeah, I felt exactly the same way. I felt like once I finished, it was so strange to me. Like, I graduated high school and I went right into university, and then 4.5 years of university, and the graduation day came and went, and they gave me a piece of paper, and that was about it, right? And then they say, okay, go do what you want to go do now. And then a couple months later, they call you from the university and they ask you if you're employed yet, which makes sense, right? But like,
it's good that they're calling for employment. They always call me for donations. They're like, would you like to donate? I'm like, seriously? Would you like to donate me?
They kind of attempt to do it in one phone call. So they ask you for a donation, and then they ask you, are you employed? But they don't ask you if you're employed in your field. They just ask if you have a job. And obviously, we all have to pay our bills. So even if we're not working our what we want to do for the rest of our lives, but we're working as a waitress, or we're working, doing some whatever it is. If you're have a summer job or something, whatever it is, then like obviously you're employed because you're paying the bills somehow, but that doesn't mean that you're employed exactly where you want to be. So I felt like, when they say that like 97 or like 98% of people that come out of university have like a job, like are employed, I understand how they get that statistic, because everybody has to pay their bills somehow, but doesn't mean that everybody's exactly employed where they want to be right now. But it doesn't mean we can't get there, right? So
yeah, that is so true. By the way, Nick, if our conversation becomes longer, because the Instagram has only 60 minutes, if our conversation exceeds that, I want to ask you to stay here, do not leave. We will be going live again, and then we can connect again and continue our conversation.
Sure.
Okay. Just in case. All right, let me ask you my next question, actually. So, in terms of, because this organization is based on the health benefits that any art or creative activity can have for us, or practice of any art and creativity. Would you say that your creative activity has helped you with your health at all?
Oh, yeah. Especially like, there's a joke kind of in the stand-up comedy community that all stand-up comedians have to be a little bit wacky and out of sorts to be able to write the kind of material and do the kind of things we do to like, because for example, I'm in Red Deer, and sometimes if it's a big show or a club show, so I might, for example, get 5 or 6 minutes to perform. If it's a big like theater show, let's say there might be 150 people in the room, and I might get 6 minutes, and for that time I have to drive an hour and a half, right? So some people think like it's kind of crazy to do that travel for that amount of time, and sometimes it's if it's a longer drive, you'll usually get more time because you're committing more time to it. But yeah, for me, health-wise, it's helped me to get through some of the things in my life that have happened. Growing up with a disability, like I had going to the grocery store, kids would look at me differently because I walk with crutches. They still do, Everybody asks questions because I walk with the crutches, so they can see something's not exactly right, and they ask questions, and it's okay. But after a certain amount of time, or things keep happening, or people will, even adults will ask me when I'm working a job somewhere, like when I was working in a movie theater, or I sold barbecues for a summer, all sorts of different weird jobs I had, and people would just come up to me and ask me about my disability, and or not even necessarily sometimes ask, but they want to, I don't know, I guess help me to get better in some way, and but after a while, it can be a little bit frustrating. So those kind of frustrations, I find you can turn into humor and educate people, and usually it's just like I'm pretty silly with it, I guess. I tend to over exaggerate some scenarios in my comedy, but yeah, like I had an employer, like I went for a job interview, and the lady asked me if I knew how to work a microwave. And at first I wasn't quite sure if I could feel like insulted or not, because I have a university degree, but my friend told me afterwards that I should have just told her that I know how to fix microwaves.
Yeah.
Would have probably got me the job.
You should have.
I think so.
So do you want to tell us one of your jokes, Nick?
Sure. Well, so I went to university, and so I got my start in comedy when I was probably like, I don't know, 21, 22. And the reason.
Oh, you got cut off.
Sorry, I had to call there. Sorry.
Oh.
The reason I love stand-up comedy though is because I was told that going to university, I was studying a lot and going to work, and people were wondering why it took me such a long time to start doing comedy, to get on stage. I say it's because it's called stand-up comedy, and I'm not the best with standing, so it took me a while, But I also, my friend, I have a friend that called me the other day, and he said I have a problem. I have this mouse in my house, and he won't leave me alone. He said he entered my house without Parmesan, and he won't leave me alone. I said, man, just leave it free. I'll see, I'll go to town. My guess is that mouse camembert all your pressure right now. Me and that mouse will have a little chat and see what's going on. It probably is feeling a little empty, like the holes in Swift, Probably lost his baby bell, and gets to your house and find out it's about to get smoked. Honestly, I expected you to handle this situation. You called me, which is a nice thing to do, but I expected you to handle this much better, man. Because I apologize, by the way, if anybody listening to this is lactose intolerant. That joke's not for you, but if you don't like this joke, I apologize. I'm just working on my craft.
Good. Yeah, that's quite an issue and dilemma these days too. People with lactose intolerance and glucose and all sorts of different, dietary issues.
And another question I was legitimately asked in interviews, which got turned into a joke too, was so I was actually at one of probably your favorite places to shop. Like Walmart is a pretty cool place. Everybody goes there nowadays, and I had an interview at Walmart, and they asked me a really hard question, which is if you drop a jar of salsa in the aisle, what would you do? And so I said, obviously, I would grab some chips to get rid of it. So obviously, I got an interview, and I figured the interview was going pretty good. But the last question the lady asked me was, how are you with ladders? I don't know if you know, but I'm not necessarily great with ladders. I'm amazing. In fact, I'm the 2019 Snakes and Ladders champion. Better read my resume before you judge me.
That was awesome. Great. All right, let me move on to my next question. So I guess I was going to ask you what is the theme of your jokes, but I guess it's pretty clear. Do you always make lots of jokes about your disability, or are there other jokes too? Or what is most interesting to you?
I kind of go all over the board. You know, some of my jokes are a little bit more, you know, they're not all like kid friendly, I guess. But I didn't know what kind of rating you have on this show, so. But you know, I talk about growing up on my parents grew up on a farm, and so I have a lot of stories about growing up on a farm, and just going through, you know, stories about university and trying to find work, and I do talk about my disability and what's going on, but I like to think that, or I put it this way, you know, I don't like to be considered a disabled comedian. I like to be just considered a comedian that has you know, happens to have some funny stories about also having a disability, because not all my comedy is about my disability. You know, I don't want to be, you know, just people that think that that's all I talk about. But it's definitely like, as I'm going, I'm writing every day if I can, so, or trying to come up with new things and get inspired. So
that's great. That's great. So what is your perspective on art and creativity in general?
What is my perspective on it? I mean, I thought it was interesting too. I watched one of your YouTube videos, and on the video you were talking about, I believe it was, you talking about how in art we critique like paintings and all the stuff we make. We call it a critique, but it should really just be an analyst and an analysis of that person's work, instead of like really looking at it and saying what's wrong with this or what could be better. I agree with you in what you were saying in the video. Because that's true. Like with traditional art, like that's what a lot of my courses were. Like we had the 2-hour or 2.5-hour art classes in university, and I don't know if they were the same. I went to the University of Lethbridge, but that was my art classes were in the evenings for like 2.5 hours, and so each week you would be given a project, right? And I believe the class was once or twice a week. I can't remember, but I think it was twice a week. And so you'd be given a project, and then the entire 2 hours would be spent going around the room and critiquing everybody's work. And like and I find that's sort of the one thing about art is, I mean, it's I guess it's important to be a little bit self-critical, to be improving, and to always want to strive to improve and to get better with things. But at the same time, I think I would say, you know, the whole idea of maybe critiquing is the wrong thing to do, because critiquing is like looking at what's wrong, whereas opposed to like not, you shouldn't look at it as what's wrong. You should just really just talk about like the creative process, and you know, like you talk about happy accidents that happen while you're painting, you know, talk about the journey that you go through in making a movie or a painting or whatever it is you're making. Whether it's you're writing a book, and go through the process of editing the book and talk about how difficult that is, or yeah, I think that's probably my thing right now is, I guess, I mean, but in saying that too, as a stand-up comedian, we're critiqued all the time, right? Based on, we tell a joke, and based on how the audience responds, it's a critique too, right? Like, if they like my joke, they'll laugh. If not, they'll sit there awkwardly in silence, you know?
Has anyone booed you?
What's that?
Has anyone booed you so far?
Booed me? Not too much, no. But we do. Usually people, you know, comedians too will kind of. We call it heckling in comedy, but so we'll kind of you know, sometimes somebody might yell something out during your set, and you kind of just like learn to deal with those things slowly. That takes a lot of time too, because I don't know, comedy's probably one of those unique art forms where a lot of people watch it and enjoy it when they're drinking. So right, so when they're drinking, they feel the need to sometimes get involved in the show too. And as somebody who's up there performing, you know, it can be difficult because you're not like a musician or a band. Like, you're not playing the next song and people aren't cheering and clapping as they're doing it. People are responding based on what you say, and you know, so it's a difficult. You have to find a balance in terms of being funny and telling your story, but making sure to try not be too. I try not to be like offensive, but you know, there's some comedians that, you know, do a lot of like shock and try to offend and those kind of things. It's you kind of create a style as you go, or you find your voice. Yeah. And then then you go from there. But even for me, there's still a lot of things I'm learning. And again, like it's also a little bit weird, you know, telling jokes on Instagram Live too, right? Because like it's not like a regular comedy show, because in a comedy show, even in a restaurant, you know, like you got a microphone, you got some sort of stage or something going on, and so it's kind of, you know, it's very different when you don't have a microphone and a captive audience, right? As opposed to doing the live shows now, because you're not. You can do the shows on Zoom, and then you can hear the people laughing, but it's not quite the same as having them in the room and having the energy of the room to help you with the show. That's true.
So Nick, who was the most inspiring person for yourself, your life, and your stand-up comedy?
Okay, that's a difficult one, but I was really well. Obviously, there have been a lot of great family, my parents and doctors that have helped me to physically get to where I am, because I used to be in a wheelchair when I was that was what I should have said, you know, in the beginning of that joke. I used to be in a wheelchair, and so that's why the phrase stand-up comedy kind of threw me off a bit. But anyway, so I used to be in a wheelchair, and now I walk with usually 2 crutches if I'm out and about, but I can walk with 1, or I walk with no canes if I'm at home sometimes. But so I've gotten better over time. But as a comedian, Josh Blue is a comedian in Calgary, or not in Calgary, sorry, in America, in Colorado. He was on Last Comic Standing, and he has the same type of, I guess you could call it, disability or impairment that I have, similar, cerebral palsy, and so he was a big inspiration for me. Ryan Niemiller, who I got to perform with, that's a guy that I really appreciate.
Oh, you're cutting off again. Hello. Do you have my sound? Hello. I can't hear you.
Hello?
Hello? Do you have my voice?
There you go. I think I hear you. Sorry. I don't know why, but my phone keeps ringing, and I don't know how to keep it from ringing and then going off of Instagram. But no, those are some of my inspirations. I don't know, like as when I was doing like traditional art, like I really I'm not the best artist either, but I really liked Andy Warhol. and I like Banksy, like the kind of the street art kind of stuff. But yeah, and then obviously, I don't know, I'm a big I like Quentin Tarantino movies a lot, and I like Clint Eastwood. Clint Eastwood's probably my favorite, like filmmaker, director. So
Cool. I was hoping to hear some other big comedians, big names.
oh yeah, well I guess big names. Okay. Probably John Mulaney's a favorite of mine. I really like John Mulaney. And I got to talk to a guy who recently, on my podcast, he recently celebrated 40 years of comedy in
Oh, you're cutting off again.
my phone keeps being weird. But yeah, I really like John Wayne as well. The thing about comedy too is outside of, like, if I was to say like Jerry Seinfeld or Dave Chappelle, maybe Chris Rock, those kind of people, those might be names that somebody who's not a huge comedy fan would know. But there's a lot of comedians out there who have been doing comedy for a long time that are not as well known, so it's difficult to get,
right.
I mean, to get, I guess, quote unquote, like famous from it. But
yeah.
But that's one of the things is even in Canada, there's a lot of stand-up comedians that have been doing stand-up for a long time. But not a lot of people will know the names unless they're like really into the scene, I guess. But yeah, there's a lot of great Canadian comics. The guy Pete Zedlacker out of Calgary. I've performed with him, and he's hilarious. He's been doing stand-up for a very long time. Lars Callio out of Edmonton, who actually has been doing a really cool thing over the last like two-ish months of this whole coronavirus. I kind of joined him on one of these shows a few weeks ago. He did something he calls fire pit comedy because all the venues right now are closed. So he's going into do private shows at people's backyards at their fire pits, and people will gather in groups of 20, 25 and get their lawn chairs and some drinks. And when he comes out, he brings his the speaker system and microphone and everything, and follows the health regulations. But he tells some jokes in people's backyards, and that's kind of that's kind of really caught on recently, and other cities have started doing it. So I'm not sure where you are right now, but I know there's some people in Calgary that are doing it. I know it's in Winnipeg, and another guy, Kelly Taylor, is doing the same kind of thing in Saskatchewan. So slowly, I don't know, it'll be interesting to see how everything that's happened so far will affect art in particular coming back, because I know stand-up comedy just got allowed to kind of start coming back once phase 2 started here, like a week or two ago. So before that, we weren't really, or we still aren't overly allowed to do a lot of performance, because they say that the singing or clapping or cheering can spread bacteria, I guess, if that's the right word, or can increase the chances of getting sick or something. So that's why there haven't been as much like live performance going on, but there's always ways to work around it. So it'll be interesting to see how everything comes back. And I don't know how things are affected for you as like, have you been spending a lot of time painting or working on certain projects at home?
Yeah, well, I guess for artists it doesn't change much because we spend a lot of time in our studio anyway.
Right.
And before the pandemic, I was trying to kind of transfer everything online anyway. I just couldn't really get everything done and finish it because there was other things that I had to go and do outside all the time. But then once we were inside and there was no any other option and no any other choices, I felt like finally I have the time that I was looking for, and I can finally focus and just get done, start the project that I was trying to start and just work on it. Because I know as much as we want to hope or think that your success of your career comes with just having more amount of shows or exhibitions or just projects in general, I think the big part of it is also your online presence. So and maybe they are all kind of linked together anyway. If you have more shows, obviously you have more material and content to actually record and document so you can put it online. But if you don't have it, then what are you going to do then? Are you going to create it yourself at home? Are you going to start a new project with other people? Those are the things that I think it's important that we always be creative. It doesn't matter what the situation is. You have to be creative. You have to be flexible because otherwise you're going to break down. So
it's interesting you mentioned that too, because the guy Ryan Niemiller, who I was mentioning, he's been performing stand-up now for 14 years, and he was on the most recent season of America's Got Talent. He's been doing comedy for 14 years, but I imagine it would be hard to really imagine what happened to him. I believe they air the first audition clips. I believe they aired it on like a Monday or a Tuesday night. So Monday when he was going to bed, nobody really knew who he was. Tuesday his clip airs on TV, and now everybody is Googling him and wants to find out where he's performing and when they can get tickets and when he'll be on TV next, right? So he made it. He obviously got third place, so he performed many times on that show. But it just goes to show you, like that kind of obviously like that came from the exposure of the TV show as well. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of time and hard work that goes into being an artist. A lot of work that goes, I would say, unnoticed probably because
it's invisible. Nobody will see it. Everybody thinks that you just and the interesting part is that if you do get some praise and if you do get some sort of success, everybody thinks that you don't deserve it. Because what have you done? It was just one project, but they don't realize that one project was it was as a result of years of hard work that you have been building, and all of a sudden this one project maybe shows all of it together.
Well, they also don't see. They might see, for example, the 10 pieces you have on the wall in an art gallery, but they don't see the time that went into promoting the actual show itself. They don't see the time that went into organizing everything and putting things and displaying them a certain way to get the right artistic message across, right? Sometimes in a gallery, the way you go around it or the way you interact with the exhibit is part of the art itself. So a lot of work goes into how the actual art is presented, and then by promoting the show, that's a big thing with comedy. We try to promote as much as we can, and obviously if you're a new comedian, like it's great. I know a lot of my family members came out to shows, and they still do. They come out and see a lot of my shows, but because they don't come all the time because I'm working on new material, but it'll take a while before I get something that's, you know, polished and ready to show people. So they don't want to hear me tell the same jokes 50 times or 100 times, but honestly, to get the joke down right and to get it, because not only do you have to tell a joke, you have to weave it into a story, right? So I can tell you a joke on I can tell you a joke on his Instagram live, but it really is just a part of a bigger story, right? Because you want to weave your jokes into, let's say, you know, a 15 or a half hour or an hour long story. Really, you know what I mean? If you watch a stand-up special from your favorite comedian, doesn't matter who it is, if it's Jerry Seinfeld, those kind of regular comedy specials are usually an hour. So it's basically just him up there for an hour telling stories that are all somehow related, right? And that process of making it all related and flow like that is over time, right? So they don't notice the hundreds of repetitions of the same material, or they don't notice you cleaning your brushes and you know what I mean? Like all the preparation that goes into making it, they just see the final product.
Yeah. And I think that's something that when we are educating people about art, that's always that part of it that I think requires the most attention. You know, like when I have taken initiative myself to educate people about art, just so because we can understand each other better and understand the value of art and understand the all the different benefits that art and creative activities can have for people in general. And so these are the things that they go unnoticed.
You teach art, right?
I teach art as well, yeah.
So, and is there things like, do you notice that students have concerns about when they're done school and how to present their art and how to get it out there? Is that a big concern? Like, obviously, if you're a creative person in general, or if you signed up to study art in school, obviously it's something you're passionate about, or a student would be passionate about. But do you find that the students themselves are worried about how to present their art and make it, you know, relevant in you know, because like obviously digital media has a big part to play in how we present our art now too, whether it's interactive art or just promoting a show. But do you find that the students are worried about that, or are you?
You know, I have worked with quite a diverse group of people in creativity in general. I have worked with, I have taught people who were living in shelters and absolutely had no idea or any sort of interest in living their life, and yet alone wanting to paint a painting or learn anything about art. And at the same time, I worked with artists who have just graduated or are so-called emerging artists. And I have also worked with, and my current students are probably the most enthusiastic group of individuals who are really just passionate about art and just want to learn for learning it. And, you know, there's no business attached to it. They're not thinking of promoting their work or becoming an artist. They just do it as a hobby.
Yeah.
So, but, you know, looking at this whole variation of different people, still the most common thing between them is just that passion for art. And I always just, my recommendation to all the people who want to continue it or somehow want to get more involved is just continue working and just stay focused on your passion, stay focused on your practice, and be consistent. And when you know, even if you are just doing it as a hobby, still it takes some practice to become good at anything that you want to do. Oh, our time is running. Just wait, okay? I'll be back.